The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young, but had they lived very, very long lives, they would not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And I'm Austin Johnson.
And this is Filmgazm 101, as in the 101st episode of this ever-growing, ever-learning genre film podcast. Today we are serving up one of the most groundbreaking horror flicks of the 20th century, 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first of another 100 episodes of our particular style of reviewing and discussing movies of all shapes and sizes. New 100 starts here. Texas Chainsaw. Couldn't have been better.
Yeah, no kidding, especially being two dudes who live in Texas.
Yeah.
Two dudes who very much respect the pop culture that comes from Texas. And this is one of the greatest films to be filmed in Texas. A guy who was born in Austin, Texas, Tobe Hooper, fucking breathes that shit, you know? And I'm very proud when I watch a movie like this because it feels Texan, it is Texan, and all of it's in Texas.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's very cool, and I know our colleagues, Josh and Caleb, love this movie, as they should. And I know that Caleb has had made trips to some of the locations. I know you have been to the diner?
Yeah, Caleb and I made a road trip to Kingsland, Texas, to the restaurant that was the farmhouse that they filmed the movie in. It's now a very fancy-looking restaurant called the Grand Central Cafe, and I actually felt very underdressed when I went there in a t-shirt and shorts because I was like, this is probably going to be like a barbecue joint. But no, it's a very fancy, like, luncheon kind of place.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
They are not above advertising that they are the Texas Chainsaw House. I did get a t-shirt, so they do celebrate that side of it. They just don't advertise it that much these days. Yeah,
for sure. And, this is a film that's nearly 50 years old. So
God.
you can understand how over time, maybe certain commercial ideas and stuff and like your advertising for it just changes over time. But this film, man, operating on that really, really low budget of like $100,000 or something, and making around, what is it, 30?
Yeah, it was 300,000 and it was a $30 million gross, which is just amazing.
Yeah, just really unbelievable stuff. And that's like what you want from horror, is the practicality and the passion is all there, and no money, but the genius is there. And that's why Texas Chainsaw has just kind of lived on like it has. And I hadn't seen it in maybe 4 or 5 years, and I just totally forgot how amazing it is.
It's amazing that this movie is remembered as one of the goriest films of all time, but there is virtually no blood. It's all in your imagination. It's all what you think you're seeing. It's really brilliant filmmaking. And this is considered not just a great horror film, but critics have embraced this as like a landmark 20th century cult masterpiece, like an indie film darling almost.
Yes, exactly.
That's pretty amazing for a film that's really, grisly.
Extremely grisly. And I had read that Toby, his insane mind was thinking that this movie was going to be rated PG. And they obviously slapped him in the face with an R rating and said, fuck out of here, dude. And, therefore the horror fans went crazy and the families didn't.
Jesus Christ. I love that he thought like, oh, I can make this PG. Like, this will be fun for the whole family.
No. And you brought up, it's kind of in your head, right? Some of the gore and whatnot. And it clearly Toby is inspired by, the likes of Alfred Hitchcock, where less is more, and practicality and fucking with the audience's head over and over is it works for me as a fan so much.
Well, also all he had to work with was a farmhouse in Texas and a cast and crew of nobodies. So he had to kind of just build this from scratch. And what he ended up getting, like, with the rampant production problems and just everyone turning on each other and this insane stuff, you can make a movie on the production of this thing
For sure.
And what he ended up creating has lasted this long. That's pretty admirable. I know we've given Tobe Hooper a lot of shit on this podcast over, Poltergeist and The Mangler, but he did make this movie, and he fucking killed it. He really did.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, right? Because we definitely, when we did the Poltergeist episode, you and I definitely put our feet in one camp.
Yes, we did.
And Caleb and Josh put their feet in the other one. And it's really funny because it's, horror history, right? And only horror fans will kind of get off on that because it's just really funny. It's really funny to us. And I agree with you, man. This is Tobe Hooper's masterpiece, and he did it 100%. There's no doubt about it. And what he's able to do, like you said, with I want to see a documentary about the making of this film.
Oh yeah.
I would love to be a part of making it, right? It's just that kind of a thing where I'm just interested in every little decision that was made throughout this film.
As much as I love Poltergeist, I think it would be really cool to have seen that movie entirely in Tobe Hooper's hands, the indie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Way he could have filmed that movie. It would have been really cool. But I don't know, maybe, he probably had learned a lot since then and wouldn't have the same, visceral edge, because this movie is very clearly an amateur production, but that makes it so much better because they frame it as a true story.
Yes. So
if you've never, heard of this, you are going in thinking oh, this shit happened. And they filmed it in such a way that you believe that this could have fucking happened. It's really freaky. None of these actors ever did anything else. So you see them as these people and only these people. And it's fucking creepy. The family freaks me out way more than Leatherface does.
Yeah, that's a great thing. We'll surely be getting into, but the first time you see his brother, the hitchhiker, is a brutally shocking, bit. That whole scene of him in the car it might be, to me, the most frightening part of the movie because it's so unpredictable and so unhinged and so fucking weird. All we've seen are these kind of normal young people that are clearly on some sort of road trip, and that's all we see. And then we see this hitchhiker, and all they say is, "Oh, he looks kind of weird." And then he gets in the car, and you're like, "That guy doesn't look weird. That guy doesn't look human." The way he's moving and the way he's kind of, with his camera and cuts his hand with the knife and all of these things. It's just such a jaw-dropping way to kind of kickstart your horror film.
Very true. Very true. So before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about some past updates with the Rewind.
Yes.
Where
can I say something real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so last week I made a really, really silly mistake. Last week when we were talking about Twin Peaks, my mind was all over the place, and I made a mistake on one of the actors' names, and so I want to clear that up right now.
Okay.
I had said, and I'll say why I made the mistake. I actually think it's really funny and a little bit justified in my head. I had said that Allison Janney, I shouted her out. She never appeared in Twin Peaks. I don't know exactly why I said her name, but she plays Barbara Fitz in American Beauty. And for some reason, there's scenes with the Fitz family that reminds me of scenes with the Briggs family. And so Bobby Briggs' mother, I had said, was played by Allison Janney, and that's not true. It was actually, let me see what her name was. Yeah, so I made that mistake, and when I was listening to it back, I was like, you idiot, So yeah, it's Betty Briggs is the name, and it's Charlotte Stewart who is the actress, and she's incredible on that show. I just wanted to clear that up because it bothered me. I love Allison Janney, but I don't know why I made that mistake. Things were just kind of fucking moving in my head.
Oh, don't feel bad, man. Back when the Shawshank Redemption episode happened, I referred to Red as Otis Redding. I'm never going to live that shit down.
Hey, yeah, again, when your mind is moving at 100 miles an hour and you're trying to get all these thoughts out, sometimes you just slip up.
Well, that's why we do the Rewind, so we can fix ourselves sometimes.
Yes. So, is there anything else that we need to fix?
Well, we've got one update for episode 15 on John Wayne, one for episode 20 on the Godfather franchise, and a personal one for last week's Twin Peaks episode. So first up, and this is all on me, we completely missed a significant John Wayne film when we did episode 15. Yeah. That film was 1949's Sands of Iwo Jima, and it happened to be the film in which Wayne scored his first Oscar nominee for Best Actor. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that. I just found out about that yesterday, and I was like, what? How did we miss that? And I think I know why. So I have such little respect for John Wayne that I didn't bother looking into whether or not he had been nominated for anything else, because I just assumed True Grit was a fluke and nobody else would ever nominate him for anything else. So I didn't bother looking, and that is my bad.
Well, yeah, I definitely think we should have watched that one, but it's not like we didn't watch any.
That's true. We watched enough. And Sands of Iwo Jima is a 1949 war film about the Battle of Iwo Jima during World War II. And who knows, maybe one day we'll, tap into that one on Oscar Sunday. It was up for a few other awards, so maybe it's a decent flick. Who knows?
Yes.
Next up, Paramount has announced they're going to be releasing a new edit of The Godfather Part 3 in theaters this December in time for the film's 30th anniversary. In describing his new vision, director Francis Ford Coppola said, and I quote, "For this version of the finale, I created a new beginning and ending and rearranged some scenes, shots, and music cues. With these changes and the restored footage and sound, to me, it is a more appropriate conclusion to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and I'm thankful to Jim Giannopoulos and Paramount for allowing me to revisit it." What do you think about this?
I don't like it. I don't like when in Hollywood or in this industry when it feels like he's being given like a pass of some sort, or I know he's, it's Coppola, but that movie sucks.
Yes.
Part 3 sucks, and leave it at that. It sucked when it came out. It sucks now. I don't like when a director gets an opportunity to kind of fix his mistakes when so many other people don't get that opportunity.
That's true.
Your product is your product, man, and make a new movie. How about that? How about make a different movie instead of revisiting this one that nobody liked? And I'm quite frankly, I don't know if new music cues or rearranging the middle is going to change my my opinion on how shitty Part 3 is compared to the other two.
Well, I think what most people, including myself, their biggest issue with The Godfather 3 has nothing to do with how the film's arranged or the music cues. It's Sofia Coppola's horrific performance.
It's just a shit movie, yeah. And she's so bad in it, yeah.
Unless Coppola is going to cut out his own daughter and replace her with a completely different actress somehow, there's really no way that he can improve on this one. He should just let it die. Just, and when was the last time he did a new movie? Like, what has Coppola been up to for the past 20 years?
I have no idea. I don't know. It feels like something that they're just like, oh yeah, we'll let him do this. Cause I don't know. It just feels kind of cheap.
It does, but you know what? At least he's not doing this to the original Godfather. At least he's not re-editing that one.
Well, who in their right mind, right? It's so baffling how a trilogy can start out so damn good and then it's really astonishing how you can do that.
It is, especially since it was so avoidable. All you had to do was just fucking pay Robert Duvall what he wanted, and we would have this magnificent, final war between Michael Corleone and Tom Hagen that we will never see. But nope. God damn it.
Yeah. So just kind of frustrating, and I wish he would do something new, or that kind of money would be thrown to a different project.
You'd think that this guy who gave us, The Godfather 1 and 2, Apocalypse Now, The Conversation, he would still be working. You'd think that, Spielberg's still doing it, Scorsese's still doing it. Coppola just kind of walked away.
Yeah, arguably the best director of the 1970s. And, it's just it's not something you want to see. Whereas, you brought up Tobe Hooper, who's like, say what you want about him, but the dude's original.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And finally, and this is a personal one, I learned just a few days after recording last week's episode that when I was a baby, my mom and dad were taking a road trip to Seattle and happened to stop at Tweed's Cafe in North Bend, Washington. Tweed's Cafe just happens to be the location where David Lynch shot the scenes taking place at the Double R Diner in Twin Peaks.
Yep.
And apparently we all had cherry pie.
Yeah, and now I'm really jealous, and I wish I had that experience as a baby. No, I really do. I really would love, if you and I could take a trip someday up to the Great Northwest and have some coffee and cherry pie. That'd be great.
I would, I hate coffee, but I will have a cup of coffee there.
I'm not a huge coffee guy. It has to be. I only drink it black, and it's got to be from like specific places. You know, I'm picky, but I feel like I would definitely do it there. Yeah.
I don't even like cherry pie, but I'll eat it there. It's a rite of passage for a Twin Peaks fan.
Well, yes, and just being in the same spot as Cooper is something that I definitely want to do in my lifetime. Yeah.
I just find it hilarious that while watching Twin Peaks, nobody said anything. I watched Fire Walk with Me, not a word. I watched The Return, not a word. We recorded an episode on it, nothing. I happened to mention something about Twin Peaks, and my mom just brings up, oh, yeah, we went there when you were a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
so, yeah, definitely wanted you to share that story, you know, because it's so awesome when you're just like if you were to visit the Texas Chainsaw stuff, you know, it's a part of movie and TV history.
Yeah. I also found out that I think somebody in my family, I don't remember who it was, went to the house in Georgetown that The Exorcist was filmed at, and walked on the stairs where Jason Miller got thrown out the window.
Yeah.
My uncle made a
decent
pilgrimage.
Movie.
Yeah, pretty good.
It's all right.
Still holds up,
right,
I think. I mean, you know, bad case of nerves, but I think the girl was all right. My uncle made a pilgrimage to the Monroeville Mall, and Dawn of the Dead was filmed. So my family's like, we seek out these things, and it's so cool. When I was in London, I stopped at the tube station where the businessman was ripped apart in American Werewolf in London. I insisted we stopped there, and I took a picture of the station, and I just walked around for a bit. just feel the energy of 40 years ago. Yeah. When am I ever going to be in London again? I need to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, we do that, and apparently we were doing that when I was a baby.
Yeah. That's just something your parents have been doing forever. Yeah.
Can't believe it. So awesome.
So cool.
The timing of learning that could have been better, but now I know.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned that you hadn't seen Texas Chainsaw in about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, man. I would say Texas Chainsaw when I, 4 or 5 years, to give some listeners context, I would have been, 20, 21, and was really, diving into film for myself, right? It became a thing that I was doing rather than listening to other people. This is what's good. And it was like, what can I find that I'm gonna, really latch onto? And so horror kind of became something I started messing with, a genre. And that's when I saw, you brought up The Exorcist and, the Halloweens, the slasher films, right? And all these classic 70s, The Wicker Man, just stuff like that. And Texas Chainsaw was in that group of films I just kind of like injected into my body, but I wasn't totally aware of what I was seeing. And when I watched it last night, I tell you, man, we've done some spooky movies, and I think, as of late we did Hellraiser not too long ago, which is a real creepy movie. But aside from that, the last creepiest movie we've done to me is The Brood.
Yeah.
I think Texas Chainsaw now is at the top of the ranks here. It is very frightening, from the hitchhiker to that unbelievable finale. Unbelievable, extremely uncanny and ridiculous finale. It's just like nothing I've ever seen. And I totally forgot how good each transition is, how good each bit of dialogue is, and I forgot how fucking scary it is.
For sure. I love how it consistently subverts your expectations. Everyone you think is going to be the hero gets murdered immediately. It's like what you think's going to happen never fucking happens. Everything's out of left field. It's really good.
Yeah. And then it has, you're like, all right, well, here's this guy in a wheelchair, and you're thinking this and that. You have these preconceived ideas about where his character's going to go, and it's like, no, it's like that's the exact kind of death a guy in a wheelchair would have, with a guy with a chainsaw chasing him.
Yep.
You have no chance because you're in a fucking wheelchair, and that relentless aggression from Toby as the director is why I love this movie. It is so fucking relentless. It doesn't allow you to get close to these characters. It's a snippet into this really, really dark night. I just love it.
You've talked consistently over the podcast about how you think the 70s is like one of the best decades of film.
I think it's the best. Yeah.
I think it might be the best for horror too. I think the 70s was really when horror became like, what it be. How do I phrase this?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, keep going.
Horror kind of started coming into its own in the 60s, but then in the 70s, it was really allowed to just cut loose and do whatever the fuck it wanted.
Yes.
And I think really a lot of that's owed to Wes Craven and Tobe Hooper for Last House on the Left and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, really showing the boundaries you could push with this genre.
Yes. And then John Carpenter. With Assault and then Halloween in 78 is like, I mean, you could call Halloween the greatest horror movie of all time, and there's no argument to be made against that.
Yeah,
that's a totally fine. That's a great point. The slasher films coming out in the 70s are like just like nothing else, and it really, I'm not going to say that slashers like live and die in the 70s, but they certainly shine in the 70s.
I mean, you've got The Brood, you've got The Wicker Man, The Exorcist, Jaws. I mean, the party never fucking stopped.
Carrie in 1976. Yeah. Just some movies that we fucking love here at Filmgazm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. I adore the 70s. That genre, I mean, that decade just it changed the game for so much for film on every level.
Yeah. And we've talked about, plenty of times on Filmgazm and a little bit on Oscar Sundays, is the Hays Code in 1968 here in the United States. When we got rid of the Hays Code in the United States, film changed. Film changed drastically from 1970 to now, and it continues to change and continues to evolve. And those guys doing that stuff in the horror genre is like, I would compare it to, like what the Beatles were doing in the 60s, is just changing things, changing. What's popular, what's cool, what's hip with the kids. And I couldn't be more grateful for those 70s guys.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, here we are still talking about them.
Always. It's never going to stop. It never will. And we're always going to find new things from the 70s that are like, holy hell. There's a movie that, John Cassavetes directed, Mikey and Nicky, from 1976, and he also stars in it. And it's just like fucking incredible. And it's a movie that if it came out today would like, be up for a bunch of awards. And, people always say they don't make them like they used to. They're talking about the 70s. They're talking about Chinatown. They're talking about Jaws. They're talking about these movies. That's what they're talking about.
Uninhibited, up-and-coming directors visualizing their path and just, doing what they wanted with next to no restrictions for the first time ever in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And, making films that have lasted so long and still hold up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we haven't even brought up one of my favorite from the 70s would be Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece, A Clockwork Orange. Like,
yeah,
the list goes on and on and on. And that's 1971. And that movie is so dark and so weird and so strange. To think that it came out just 3 years after the Hays Code is incredible.
It's like it represents all the repressed rage and violence and anger that the Hays Code like blocked away. And as soon as that was gone, this like titan of a fucked up film just visualized and like came into being. It's like nobody made it; it just happened.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's one I cannot wait to do on one of these podcasts. We'll figure out where that goes.
Yeah, I think as far as for me, I think we would place it here because there are so many that could go in Oscar Sunday that are not necessarily horror, right?
That's true.
And A Clockwork Orange is definitely one of his films that's like, okay, it's really fucking with the horror genre. Obviously, The Shining, but you Barry Lyndon and Dr. Strangelove, which we did on Oscar Sunday, and Eyes Wide Shut, and all these films, Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, we can do all of those on Oscar Sunday.
True.
But I feel like Clockwork is exactly like what we're talking about right now. Yeah. It fits right in with what we're talking about, and it fits in with Filmgazm.
It's too important to the overall narrative. Yeah, it belongs here.
Yeah. We just figured that out right now, I think. Yeah.
Hopefully in this next, cycle of hundreds, we'll get to A Clockwork Orange.
I would love that. Or as our listeners know, occasionally we'll make a personal pick.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if I make that my personal pick.
Yes,
the movie holds a very special place in my heart. And that's hard to say out loud if people have seen it, It's a real fucked up one, but I love it.
That's fantastic. So we obviously talked about Tobe Hooper and his some of his films, Poltergeist, The Mangler. This was his baby. It wasn't his first film, but it was his most important film. And the The film itself was inspired by the real-life murders of Wisconsin cannibal and necrophiliac Ed Gein, who killed at least 2 women in the 1950s, butchered them, made various household items out of their body parts, and wore their skin as a handmade woman suit. This guy existed. We talked a little bit about him in the Psycho episode a while back. This dude is one of the most heinous sons of bitches to ever walk this planet. He was a grave robber. He made like lampshades out of human skin. He had a belt made of nipples. He had a box full of vulvas. This guy, and this was in the 50s in a small town in Wisconsin. The local law had never seen anything like this.
Oh, no.
Like, it haunted their lives to the very end. And Gein was, of course, arrested, declared legally insane, and committed to Mendota Mental Health Institute, where he spent the remainder of his life until his death in 1984 from liver cancer at 77 years old.
Just put his ass in prison. Come on.
Well, that's the thing. Ed Gein was he had a very low IQ. He was very devoted to his mother, and when she passed, he had nobody. So what he was doing was trying to become his mother by killing these women and wearing their skin.
Yes,
as you do. And obviously, it didn't work out. But this man, his crimes were so horrific. They inspired Leatherface, Norman Bates, and Buffalo Bill.
Yes, three of the most iconic, horror movies ever.
Yeah, this motherfucker, as horrific as what he did was, the dude did a lot for the horror genre, unwittingly. Yeah,
and inspired. You had pointed out the stuff with the Ed, and those are clearly things they're putting into Leatherface with the voice and at the end with the female face and all that stuff. It's truly frightening.
Ed Gein was a cross-dresser.
Yes.
The whole, his mother was constantly saying, no other woman will ever love you like I do. Like, just crazy shit like that. That's just going to fuck you up. And, he wore people. He wore a woman's skin. This isn't a character. This fucking happened. I can't believe this.
Yeah. And you can kind of get into a strange place here as a horror fan, right? You can get to a strange place of, do I appreciate this film? When the real thing that happened is so damn dark and so real. Do I watch it and feel a certain way, or am I wrong for enjoying this film? It's such an interesting place to be as a horror fan.
See, I consider that, but then I go right back to we fucking love Zodiac. And
I love these films.
I do too.
No way I
it's fucked up. I'll admit that, but yeah, I think these films are fantastic.
Yeah. I don't really know how to justify it, but hey, it's a horror podcast, so if you want justification, you probably should go somewhere else.
Yeah. So the movie was filmed mostly in an old farmhouse outside of Round Rock, Texas. Which,
that's just north of Austin. Yeah.
Yes. The whole house was later picked up and moved to Kingsland, and a restaurant, the Grand Central Cafe.
And Kingsland, my great aunt lives in Kingsland, and that's about how long of a drive would you say that is from here? 2 hours? Hour and a half?
2 hours. It's right outside Marble Falls.
Exactly. Yeah, in between like Marble Falls and Llano. Yeah, in that area. So, and this is like, for people who haven't been to Texas and are listening, this is, this area. You brought up Marble Falls and that Kingsland and Llano. These are very, very, very country, very rural, very, I'll say, very white areas.
Yeah,
and it creates a setting that is already creepy when you kind of know what it's like to be in those towns.
Yeah.
Where like meth is rampant and crime and racism and all these things, and so you just feel that atmosphere already in a film like this, and then you have this just extremely dark family. Yeah, it messes with your mind.
Oh, dude! Before Caleb joined the Navy, he used to live in the area outside of Lakeline.
Oh boy!
And the drive from here to there was about a little over 2 hours.
Uh-huh.
And I would go see him. Sometimes he'd go see me. But whenever I would go see him, I would take this shortcut on the way home, where it is just complete emptiness for miles, just vast nothing for like a good hour and a half of that drive. And I would always think, if I broke down, nobody would find me. I would never be able to find my way back. I would stumble onto some horrific shit happening in the middle of nowhere, and I'd be just, ripped apart and thrown in a ditch somewhere. And that would be the story of me. It's that mentality that you are driving with when you are driving through miles of just empty fields
in Texas,
on a highway with no cell towers. It's really fucking scary.
Yeah,
and this movie just perfectly showed that to everybody.
Yes.
It gives me chills just talking about it.
Yeah, it's super grisly, and again, when you have had those experiences, like you're saying, of driving on these roads, and your mind wanders, and obviously Tobe Hooper's mind wanders. There's some shots here that I really forgot about. Mainly the headlight one, whenever Sally gets picked up in the pickup truck, and you just see the headlights coming from far. Ooh, that is so creepy, because you know what that's like in Texas when there is emptiness and it's nothing and it's pitch black and all you can see is headlights and stars. Very, very scary. Very scary.
And you don't know who's in that truck. You don't know who's in that crate. You don't know if they're going to help you or kill you.
Yeah, and in his case, that's one of the more frightening scenes of the movie as well, when he keeps hitting her with the stick, and telling her we're going to be there soon, and you're just like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like how uncomfortable I feel. But then again, you can't stop watching.
Yeah, this movie is not the kind of thing you just throw on for the family. Like, this movie, you feel dirty watching it. It's weird.
Yeah, I love that, because, again, The Brood is a film that I feel that way about as well. When you finish it, you're like, what did I just do to myself? And, man, I can speak for both of us and for Caleb and Josh. We look for that.
Yeah.
We consciously seek that stuff out, because we're desensitized and we've seen all this stuff. We want to be freaked out still. We still love that part of horror. And so when you're constantly on the lookout for that, you might slip up on some really weird stuff.
As much as I love talking about films that I've seen a million times, that I adore, that I can recite the plot from memory, it's those films where I'm going in blind that I think are my favorite episodes, because we both approach that with the same mentality of like, I knew nothing and now I know too much. And that is just so great. And we got a few of those coming up in the next few weeks. And
we have a great schedule for here and on Oscar Sunday. Just, we planned it out very nicely, and I'm really excited for the stuff we have lined up. And you're so right, man. When we do attack a film that neither of us have really tapped into or seen, like The Brood, but we know about the director, that's just really cool. It's a really cool place for us to go.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, and I wanted to point out, the gas station is now a restaurant too.
Yeah, that's I definitely want to go there. Yeah.
That's a place where I think it's like a barbecue joint where you can get like ribs and shit, which is fucked up, but that's exactly what I would order.
And I think they still have like the soda machine out there. I think there's something still there. So like, yeah, I want to do that. I want a shirt or a soda from the right outside there. That would be awesome.
The cool thing about that for us is all of this shit is within driving distance. So
yeah, and I haven't been to any of this stuff. So yeah, we're definitely going to try to plan a trip sometime in the winter or spring and just drive around and find some cool shit from Chainsaw.
Yeah, absolutely. So the production was grueling. And most of the cast sustained real injuries for the sake of realism. They got tired of trying to get shit to work. So they're just like, all right, fucking stab me and we'll get it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, throw me down that hill out of the wheelchair.
Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface, wore the same costume the whole shoot. It was never washed. And the mask actually started to make him delirious. And he started actually like chasing people with the fucking chainsaw. Like, this production almost actually created fucking Leatherface.
Almost created a murderer. Yeah.
This production could have ended very differently. We wouldn't be talking about the film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We would be talking about an actual Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
It was fucking close. Ugh.
God, that's just crazy.
Yeah, the shit that they did on this film, you could never get away with. Like, even in the 80s.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if this film were tried to make today? Just, no chance.
Toby Hooper would be in fucking prison. And most of the cast and crew fucking hated him by the end of this because he was pushing everybody to get this done, no matter what the cost, no matter, like, financially and, fucking mentally. He didn't care. Yeah. It was just, I need to finish this movie. My God. So let's talk about a bit about the cast. We have Marilyn Burns as Sally, the so-called final girl. Burns would pop up in 2 more Texas Chainsaw movies over the years in various cameo roles. And she died in 2014 at age 65 from natural causes. She became kind of a horror icon with this film, but never really did much. Nobody in this movie ever really went on to do anything else.
No.
Alan Danziger plays Jerry, the hippie driver. He played an alien in an earlier Hooper film called Eggshells in 1969, but this was his only other acting role. He never did anything else.
And he is great. He's great. That the whole bit of him and those really, really amazing shots of him walking like into the sun as he's walking to the house. Kirk! Oh, you're going to die.
Paul A. Partain plays Franklin, Sally's wheelchair-bound brother. Partain cameoed in another Texas Chainsaw film as well before dying in 2005 at age 58 from cancer. And he is the most Texas sumbitch in this movie. Like, just his, hardcore Southern accent and just the way he approaches everything is so weird.
Yeah. He's funny. I kind of forgot about his antics completely, and he's super effective, especially at the beginning of the film. You absolutely need him when the hitchhiker comes along. So yeah, he's awesome.
One of the first shots of the movie is him trying to piss into a can and falling down a hill.
Yes.
There's a lot of weird humor in this film, like dark humor. I mean, we're laughing at like, a paraplegic rolling down a hill. That's
trying to pee. Yeah.
That's fucked up. And then I hope I'm not alone in this, but the scene where Leatherface just kind of comes out of nowhere and just starts stabbing him in the wheelchair, I was laughing my ass off. I was like, there's no chase. It's just like, there he is.
Yeah. Yeah, which again is like, that's what you'd expect out of this guy in a wheelchair. You just don't have a chance.
You don't. There's no way he could have outrun. I just picked, him rolling along with Leatherface, like walking behind him. No, that would be just sad.
Yeah.
William Vale plays Kirk, the dashing leader of the group who gets axed first. Was not fucking expecting that the first time I saw this.
No, good Lord, no.
Maybe the scariest scene of the movie, just out of fucking nowhere. Thwack.
And then his legs start shaking and he hits him again, and then the legs finally stop and you're like, oh, okay, this is that kind of a movie. All right.
Good Lord. And Vale also appeared in Poltergeist with the bizarre character name of Implosion Man. Does that ring a bell to you?
No, it does not.
Yeah, apparently I've seen that movie a few times. I love Poltergeist. I do not remember an Implosion Man.
Yeah, we'll have to like search for that next time we watch it. It's a great film.
Yeah. Terry McMinn plays Pam, who gets meat hooked early on, and she didn't do much beyond this film. So that's the hippie group. Then we have Edwin Neal as the weird hitchhiker. And he's popped up in a ton of horror flicks and TV shows over the years, but none of them are really worth talking about. But he is so creepy in this movie. Like, good God. It's like they just found some weird guy and threw him in the movie. It's like he's not an actor. They just found him on the side of the fucking road.
Yeah, it truly feels that way, which goes along with, can you imagine if we would have been our age or even maybe a little younger and we go see this film in theaters in 1974 and we believe that this is real, and that's the kind of character where you're like, oh, yeah, that guy definitely feels like someone who would murder people and, go crazy and, demand $2 after taking a Polaroid picture and stab himself and then stab the guy in the wheelchair. He's just fucking bonkers, and it's, totally necessary for the film to even work.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole, like, all the bad guys in this film are just too real. There's something about that family where I believe that family would exist in the backwoods of Texas.
Yes.
Just picking off people who drive past.
Yeah. You're just the cook.
Ugh. And that's Jim Cito, who plays the old man. In the second one, he's called the cook. Another thing, none of these fucking weirdos have names.
Yeah, I know.
That's creepy as hell. Cito did reprise his role in the follow-up. He died in 2003 at 83 years old from emphysema complications. Finally, we have Gunnar Hansen, who plays the now iconic Leatherface. And Hansen became a horror legend with this role, doing the convention circuit for a while, popping up in various horror movies. But he only ever played Leatherface one time, probably because this was such a grueling experience.
Yes.
He died in 2015 at age 68 from pancreatic cancer. And I remember in like 2012, 2013, he was a guest judge on like Halloween Cupcake Wars on Food Network. I remember that.
That's fantastic.
Oh, boy. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has an IMDb score of 7.5, Rotten Tomatoes score of 88%. It grossed roughly $30 million on a budget of only $300,000. It produced 4 direct sequels, 2 prequels, and 1 remake thus far, with another in the works. It made Leatherface one of the most iconic horror villains of all time and influenced countless other horror classics.
Yes.
And with that, let's get into the plot of this thing.
Let's do it.
So we open with the vandalization of a bunch of graves in rural Texas. Gravesites have been desecrated, bodies dug up, arranged into weird sculptures. So in addition to eating people, this family is also grave robbing. And we meet Sally, her invalid wheelchair-bound brother Franklin. And they're concerned their grandfather's grave might have been vandalized, so they're going to the site with 3 of their friends. Weird topic for a road trip. With friends.
Yeah, and you would think, these other people that are just like, yeah, I'll just join for the trip. What? Why? What? I get the boyfriend, Jerry, but yeah. Kirk, why are they there?
It's weird, your friends start saying, there's been some grave robbing down in Texas. I think somebody might have vandalized my grandfather's grave. I don't immediately think, oh, sweet road trip.
Yeah.
That's weird. Maybe they're there for emotional support, but they don't ever give any.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to bring up is like, yeah, maybe they invited them like, hey, we just want you to be there for us. But they don't really, they immediately just like want to go swimming. So
yes, it's weird.
And it goes back, it goes into the like, along the lines of some of the stuff in slasher movies where it's like, oh, if you have sex, you're going to get killed. And I think like in Texas Chainsaw, it's just like, all of you are such pieces of shit friends to each other that you're all going to die, It's
one way to look at it, sure. I think
you guys are not close.
I think it's more just, it can happen to anyone. It doesn't, like, this movie has more of a
for sure.
Be careful who you bump into in the backwoods.
Or it's like it doesn't matter when you're in Texas.
True. Everything is bigger in Texas, including the body count.
Yes, the dirty South. Yeah, it's just a nasty place sometimes.
So we have Sally's boyfriend, Jerry, her best friend, Pam, and her boyfriend, Kirk. And when they discover the grave is intact, they decide to visit the old family homestead, which is now abandoned. Such questionable decisions in this movie.
And the fact that they're all not traveling together as one makes 0 sense. When they don't have cell phones or any way to communicate with each other, you're like, oh man, these people are just as dumb as the kids in Midsommar.
They're begging for it at times. I mean,
yeah,
you don't just wander into an abandoned farmhouse in Texas. There's something's going to happen.
When nobody answers. Yeah, like, goddamn, Kirk.
Along the way, they pass a slaughterhouse. And unprompted, Franklin starts describing how they used to kill cattle with a sledgehammer, but they had to do it like 5 or 6 times, and now they use an air gun where they just shoot a bolt into the cow's head, and everyone's like, why the fuck are you talking about this?
Yeah, like, you're weird, Franklin.
But it sets up later, what we see Leatherface do to Kirk, and that's how we know that they're going to cannibalize them. The way he does it. It's very smart. And the air bolt, of course, just made me think of No Country for Old Men.
Oh, Lord, have mercy, right? Yeah, you can't get Anton Chigurh out of your head when you hear those words. Yeah,
another iconic Texas movie.
Yeah, which we could talk about Texas movies all day, I'm sure, but that's probably for another time and place. That's a great point, though. That's one of my favorites.
Well, that's a podcast all its own.
Yeah, truly.
So after this weird talk about cattle death, they decide to pick up this hitchhiker who immediately gives off so many red flags. He's fidgety. He's got a knife. He's like talking about random shit. He's trying to sell them pictures. He takes Franklin's knife, cuts his own hand, hands it back. Amazingly, at this point, they're not throwing him out.
Yeah, they're just kind of staring at him like he's just bizarre, which is what he is. But, more creepy to me than any of that stuff is the shit hanging off his fucking shoulders. And it's like clearly like chicken feathers that are like hanging off of him, and clearly hasn't showered in years. And, this guy is not going to be fun to be around.
Yeah. He invites them all to his house for dinner.
Yeah. Incredible.
And they of course are like, oh no, we're just passing through. No thanks. He's like, you don't know what you're missing.
And he's like, all right, let's go right up here. My house is right up here. And they're like, can't you walk?
Real close. His like weird enthusiasm towards everything is so off-putting. It's freaky.
But he's like not on drugs. He's like not just like coked up or anything. This guy's just messed up.
Yeah, he's probably generations of inbreeding in this weird ass cannibal family has made this freak and Leatherface. So yeah, I picture that. I can see that.
Who gave birth to these people?
Where is Mama?
Yeah,
that's a very good question.
She ran fast. Yeah, said, I don't think I'm comfortable here.
Yeah, I don't think Mama was a willing participant.
No.
Ugh, I don't like that thought. I have never thought about that with this movie, but now it's like it's right there. Same.
When I watched it last night, it just thoughts flooded through my head about the film itself and just scenarios, and it's just a really good movie.
It really is. So after he cuts his own hand for some reason, just I think to show them like, look what I can do. They don't kick him out, but then he takes a picture of Franklin, tries to a Polaroid, tries to sell it for $2, and they're like, I don't want it. And that's when he flips out and sets the photo on fire and stabs Franklin with the knife. And they open the door, kick him out, and he starts running after them, smearing blood on the van and kicking the van. And it's such a strange scene. It could be a short film.
Oh, for sure, right? There's so many snippets from this film that could be a short film. That's a great point.
Yeah. So they're running low on gas, and they're all a little worried that this son of a bitch is chasing them. And they stop at a gas station, and the guy who runs it, this weird old man, tells them the tanks are empty, and he's waiting for the gas tanker to show up. And they tell him where they're going. Never do that. And they say they're going to the old Hardesty home, and they're like, well, you probably shouldn't go there. People around these parts aren't receptive to strangers. And then he sells them barbecue. And they're eating barbecue, and we all know what that is.
Yep.
God, they're just like eating, human brisket. It's so fucked up.
Ugh. God, it's disgusting. And yeah, Jerry's like, I got some barbecue for the road, boys, you idiot.
Then there's that one other guy just kind of doing work. We never see him again.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd love to have known. Yeah. What's that guy's role in this whack ass family?
Spotter, probably.
Yeah.
And so without any gas, they're going to go track down another gas station. They leave and depart for the family home, which they get to. Sally and Pam go off to look through the house. Franklin finds it hard to get around the place because he's got a wheelchair, and he's frustrated because everyone's having fun but him. And Franklin gives Pam and Kirk directions to an old swimming hole. Used to be nearby. They find it dried up. Kirk hears the sound of a gas generator nearby, gets the idea to find out where it is, try to get some gasoline. And at this point, we're all kind of thinking, Kirk's, the tall, handsome leader of the group. He's the guy. In typical movie fashion, this is the guy who's going to, lead them to safety when things go south. What they do is Kirk follows the sound, They discover a large farmhouse surrounded by a bunch of abandoned vehicles. That
Yeah.
is so fucking creepy. Just knowing, what's happened here. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and it screams, leave, 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 leave. Leave,
so much.
run as fast as you can in the other direction.
Good Lord.
I'm glad you and I, if we're ever in one of these scenarios, we're just going to look at each other and be like, we're fucking out of here, right?
If we are driving in the backwoods and we stumble onto an abandoned farmhouse full of abandoned vehicles and like a sign that says like, best barbecue in South Texas, we're getting the fuck out of there.
Yes. We're moving to a different state.
God. Good Lord. So a lot of these vehicles are hidden by a tarp. Kirk finds a human tooth on the front porch and it still doesn't run. He frightens his girlfriend with it. He's like, hey, look. Ah. And she's like, oh, God. A human tooth.
Yeah, and so she goes to sit on that swing, and then therefore now Kirk is left, like you said, to kind of be the leader here. So he sets his jacket down on the railing and goes inside.
Yep. Just walks inside, starts asking around. There's a big door at the end of a hallway, with a red room. It's very striking. That's the restaurant actually still has the staircase, but the room is gone. But the staircase is the most recognizable quality.
Yes.
He's lured inside by strange animal noises. He goes into the house, starts asking around, and out of fucking nowhere, Leatherface walks into frame. The camera zooms in on him, and he just whacks Kirk in the head with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Kirk goes down, starts shaking, spasming. Leatherface finishes the job with another whack, drags him into the meat room, and closes the door. Oh my God. The first time I saw this, I couldn't blink. I was like, what the fuck was that? It's out of nowhere. This movie has such a hard left turn.
Yeah. And this is, mind you, this is about 15 minutes in, and the whole movie's about an hour and 20 minutes. So you're just, it's so unforgiving and relentless. Hats off to Toby, man. Just great decision making there to just go ahead and take that left turn right away.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, for all the production problems it did have, the final product is admirable. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
God. So Pam starts getting restless when Kirk doesn't come back. So she goes into the house to look for him, and she stumbles into a room filled with bones. Just so many bones. Furniture made out of human skulls. A human hand bone just kind of dangling. God.
The chicken, when they keep going to the chicken's eyes. Oh, Toby Hooper. Great. Just great directing right there.
Pam starts retching, starts screaming, and Leatherface appears again, just out of nowhere, lunges for her. Oh, she runs out onto the porch. He catches her, carries her back inside, and hangs her on a fucking meat hook.
Like a 2-foot type meat hook that's got it's huge. It's a huge meat hook used for cattle.
He's a side of beef.
Ugh, man. And now she's watching Kirk's dead body just get dismembered.
Leatherface just picks up the chainsaw and goes to work. she's the image of her just dangling on a meat hook, watching this psychopath just cut apart her boyfriend. I just can't, man. This movie is something else.
Yeah, well, those are the last images she sees as a living person, and that's I think that some people would rather go to hell than live through that, and it's truly daunting what some of these fucking kids go through, right? It's just we're going to talk about Sally at the end, but in comparison to two female characters, when they're screaming, I'm screaming in my head as well.
Well, and it's a ballsy move to kill off half the cast in a span of 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. You're left with now just the brother and sister. One of them's in a wheelchair, and the other guy's just like the funny guy.
By the end of it, you have Sally and you have Leatherface and his family. That's it. These are the guys you're forced to relate to.
Which is why we have the amazing shot of her frantically laughing at the end of the film. That's why it's so powerful. Yeah.
You feel that sense of relief, but also this woman is never going to be right again.
Yes, exactly. And it very much reminded me of one of my favorite TV moments of all time. It slightly got ruined for me personally with El Camino, but it's when Jesse Pinkman is driving away at the end of Breaking Bad, and he starts laughing because he doesn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Because sure, you can say he's free, but no, he's not. No, he's not. And you can say Sally escaped, but no, she didn't. No, she didn't. She just lived through hell.
I hope to God I'm never in a situation where I am running from something and laughing hysterically at the idea that I got away.
Yes, I hope life doesn't bring me to that place. Yeah, agreed.
Fuck, man.
It's insane.
So back at the other house, the Hardesty house, Sally and the others starting to wonder what the hell happened to Pam and Kirk. And the sun starts setting, and Jerry just starts walking. And he comes upon the house after he's lured by the sound of the gas generator. He's lured also by the blanket that Kirk left hanging on the front porch. He goes into the house, walks into the kitchen, finds Pam locked inside a large freezer, barely alive. She lunges out of the freezer. Leatherface shows up again, kills Jerry with a fucking sledgehammer. At this point, It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and he like frantically just shoves her back into the freezer, and he's and you're starting to really hear Leatherface and the noises he makes, and how weird and unhinged he is. It's so frightening.
It is vicious how he just like thumps the body back in the freezer without a care in the world. That's not a person. That's meat.
Yes.
God. Talking about this movie is just like, ugh, it's getting to me.
It's insanely heavy, and obviously if people are checking out an episode like this, you would think that they've seen it already, so they're with us.
Yeah, that's how I treat all of these episodes. Like, if you're listening to this, you've seen the movie, so you're with us
for sure. Especially with our format, we spoil everything. We like to dive deep into the film. So yeah, that's just how this podcast works. If you want the surface level shit, go somewhere else. We want to dive into it deep.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing right here, and it's kind of hitting both of us at the same time. Just how scary this movie is.
Truly, man, truly. And Leatherface is kind of like, who are these people who could come into my house? He's like, what is going on? Like
this is too much for me.
That's the grunts. Like, this is not a normal day.
Yeah. God damn. I was hoping for it to be a Tuesday, and I was just gonna have one kill, and that's it.
This is Leatherface's time. God damn, that's dark.
It is. You have to go there. It's a defense mechanism. Yeah.
Jesus. So it comes to nightfall, and Sally and Franklin are just like, what happened? Where is everybody?
I wouldn't have been able to do what they did. To sit there, and they clearly say at one point it's 96 degrees Fahrenheit. At one point in the film, you hear that on the radio. And
Texas.
Oh boy, if you know that 96 degree heat with 98% humidity, you know what that feels like. And you do not want to be standing outside waiting for people. So if I were Sally, I would have just gone to some kind of restaurant or something and been like, I'm going to hang out here, but I know they have the gas issue. There's a lot of things to contemplate here.
Yeah, they have barely any gas.
Yeah.
Jerry has the keys.
Dickhead.
How does he have the keys and the lights are on?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Because I didn't realize he had the keys. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
That really bothered me, this watch. I'm like, how the fuck?
The lights are still on? Shouldn't the
battery drop the ball?
Yeah.
So Franklin refuses to wait at the van. He doesn't want to be left alone, so he insists, I'm coming with you. And Sally's pushing his wheelchair through the woods, but before they get to the house, fucking Leatherface pops out of the woods and just stabs Franklin to death with a fucking chainsaw. It's a vicious death. And again, through all this, you don't see anything. It's all implied.
Yeah, it's not like a bunch of blood spewing out at people. It's not, this extreme, like artsy-fartsy, gore type stuff. It's very practical, and that's because the budget was so low.
Yeah, it's surprisingly tame for a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I just think you and I both appreciate and love that part of horror. And, again, I'm going to call it, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, a movie we've done here, a movie that's hitting its 60-year anniversary this year, and a film that literally uses, for its biggest scene, uses that very effect of I'm not going to show you every dark thing that's happening. I'm just going to imply it by all these hard cuts and the music and all these different things. And, certainly Tobe Hooper's a student of that kind of horror filmmaking.
Yeah, you think you're watching Franklin get stabbed, but you don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know it fucking happened, and Sally certainly knows it fucking happened, and she bolts.
Yes.
And she starts fleeing with Leatherface right behind her. She gets cut on a thorny brush as she runs. She gets to the house, not realizing that this is his house. She runs upstairs as Leatherface saws through the front door to get at her, it's his house. He didn't need to do that. It's like he had to kill time. It was.
I'm just gonna like sit here and smoke a cigarette or something. It's just hanging out.
So in an upstairs bedroom, she finds a very, 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 very old man and a woman who's dead. So that's Grandma and Grandpa. And it's like, actually, we were bringing up Hitchcock. That reminded me very much of the discovery of Mrs. Bates at the end of the movie.
100%.
Old woman skeleton propped up. And Leatherface corners her on the second floor, so she fucking leaps out the window, runs from the house again. Somehow Leatherface caught up. It's like she's like, "Are we gonna keep doing this? Come on!" She reaches the gas station and jumps through the door. Leatherface is gone, and the old man's like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, he's right behind me. We gotta go. And he's like, all right. I'll get my truck. He goes to get the truck. She's sitting there, freaked out that Leatherface is going to come back. And then she notices the smoke pit where the barbecue is being made. And she looks at it, and that don't look like pig. That don't look like beef. What is that?
Looks a little bit like human.
Suddenly she starts realizing, oh shit. The old man returns and attacks Sally, who tries to defend herself with a kitchen knife. He knocks the knife out of her hand, knocks her unconscious with a broomstick. Dude, the first time I saw that, I was like, fuck. I thought the guy didn't give off a great vibe at the beginning, but I never got the idea, like, oh, he's behind all this.
Yeah.
It's so, like, you think she found escape, and it's so just uncompromising and brutal. Like, they're going to take her back.
It gets worse.
You never think she's going to get out of this. You think this movie's going to end with them eating her.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff.
He ties her up with some twine, puts a sack over her head and a gag in her mouth. There's this old rag. And forces her into his pickup. He drives her back to the house. And along the way, picks up the fucking hitchhiker. Oh.
Which becomes this, the dialogue between them two is hilarious because he's like, you nap-haired idiot. You idiot. What are you doing? Like, I told you you're supposed to watch your brother. And then you're starting to really put everything together. You're like, oh my God, this is just a conglomerate. This is like a company that these guys are running.
Christ, dude, that was a great impression. God damn.
I like this movie.
That floored me. Holy shit.
Nap-haired. I love that. Nap-haired idiot is a really, really, underused and well-executed phrase.
Well, I love that in that bit you understand that they have been doing this a very long time. And there's a protocol to follow here. And this idiot fucked up. And, oh, God, just how...
Yeah, and he keeps saying stuff like, you're going to get the whole county out here. Like, he's very aware, like, dude, what we're doing is obviously so illegal, you fucking moron. Like, why don't you get your head on straight so we can do this? I don't know what's scarier is the beginning of the film when Leatherface does that, or a guy who seems like he's consciously knowing what he's doing and still doing it.
Well, yeah, that line he says at the table, just some things you got to do. Don't mean you got to like it.
Like, yeah, because he's like, oh, killing ain't really for me, but well, yeah, clearly it is because you cook this shit.
To justify this shit like that, like, well, not everything in life is sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you gotta get in the shit. Like, you are butchering and eating human beings, and that's how you justify this shit. Like, well, shit happens.
Yeah.
God damn, man.
Like, what? Like, no, that's absurd.
Oh boy. So they tie Sally to a chair inside the house. They remove the bag, and she recognizes the hitchhiker, and she starts screaming. She's like, "Oh my god!"
And he also recognizes her, and he's like, "Ooh, you were in a hurry." Yeah, that's some scary stuff.
Oh my god! So yeah, the rest of the night they torment her. They make her sit at the table. They bring Grandpa down from upstairs. They start preparing a meal made from her fucking friends. Oh my god!
At one point, the hitchhiker's holding with his fork is holding a sausage, and he's just kind of waving it around, and you're like, oh man, I want to fucking kill this guy. You really at some point you're like, can a hero please come save the day?
And that's another thing nobody fucking does. They all get away with this.
Yeah, it's unrelenting. Yeah, unforgiving.
Ugh. So they have Grandpa down, and he's like basically a corpse. And they cut Sally's finger open and stick it in the old man's mouth, like letting him suck her blood. It's so ugh. It's
not scary. It's just weird and ugh. And it's one of those slimy things about horror that kind of ugh. Hellraiser had a few moments like that where you're just kind of like ugh, like the fuck, like what am I doing right now? And that's certainly how I felt when I was watching the Grandpa sip on her blood. It was really, really bizarre.
And they all tell her that, Grandpa used to work at the slaughterhouse and he's
the best. Only one hit. It only took one hit.
Yeah. He once took down like 30 cattle in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or something
crazy.
And they force her onto her knees so that Grandpa can club his last victim. Like get one more in the bag.
And so Leatherface, I mean, how many times do you think? 20? He puts the hammer back into his hand and he just drops it, barely hits her, drops it, hits her, just over and over. And then you finally have the hitchhiker like, let me hit her, And that's how Sally finally is able to kind of, wiggle her way out.
Yeah. And she fucking runs, hurls herself out another window and lands outside and just starts limping away.
Okay, that's one of my favorite shots because, you're in the house and, I'm going to bring it all the way back to when Sally first is like, oh shit, I'm still in the shitter here. And he picks her up in the pickup truck and you have the headlight shot with nothing around and they come up. All this stuff is, building towards something. and you're kind of being teased, right? As the audience over and over. And it just doesn't really stop until the credits.
Well, and I want to point out also the old man, his whole, I can't take no pleasure in killing. But then earlier, he's poking her with a stick, like laughing his ass off. Like,
I know, dickhead.
Yeah, just a piece of shit.
Well, yeah, he's messing with her head a lot. He's saying like, don't torture the poor girl, but he's also saying things that are really like making her obviously uncomfortable. And the amount of screaming she's doing. Please make it stop, and just won't stop screaming. And there's a couple shots of her eyes where you see the red lines in her eyes, and that's some serious skill where it doesn't take a big budget. It takes you paying attention to what you're doing with your film.
Absolutely. Ugh. The hitchhiker and Leatherface run out of the house, start chasing her up the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's broad daylight at this point. Isn't that crazy, right? We've gone a full, overnight here. It's a 1 day thing, but we've gone overnight. And when she jumps out the window, she's like, holy fuck, it's daytime. Like, what have I been through? I've like traveled to night and back.
And she's limping. So you're thinking like, they're going to fucking grab her easily, but they're taunting her. They're like right there, but they're not grabbing her. They're like, they want her to think she can get away.
Yes.
Ugh. And the hitchhiker nearly catches her, but a fucking semi-truck comes out of nowhere and plows his ass. It's so satisfying. Just watch that motherfucker go under.
Yeah, he goes under. That's a great effect, right? Because it looks so real. And, when he goes under that first wheel, you're kind of like, oh. And then it goes into the second one, you're like, haha, yes. Like finally that guy got his.
Yeah. And the truck driver stops to find out, like, what was that? And Sally's like, get in the fucking truck. We got to go. We got to go.
And that guy, hats off to that guy for jumping on board right away. And he gets into the truck and then they shimmy their way to the other door and go out. Again, genius directing.
Yeah, this psycho with a chainsaw. And the guy grabs a wrench and, attacks Leatherface, knocks him down, and Leatherface's chainsaw lands on his leg, and he's just like, ah! Nice.
Unbelievable.
And, it's more, I think that bit right there is more satisfying in the remake, though, because Jessica Biel just straight up cuts his fucking arm off. And it's like so damn satisfying. She's just hacking at him. But it's nice to see Leatherface get a little bit of comeuppance, even if it's not, death. He got hurt.
Yes.
So now Leatherface is limping, and the truck driver just fucking is like, I'm out. And takes off down the road.
Yeah. No kidding.
And a pickup truck drives by. Sally flags him down, jumps in the back of the truck, and the guy, no questions asked, takes off because he sees Leatherface and is like, oh, shit, drives away. And she's just like, I did it. I'm out of here. And the film ends with Leatherface just angrily saw in the air, just flaring that thing around. And that's the movie, man. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, that's the ending. And I think those decisions to make it so tight, make it like an hour and 25-minute experience is why it is what it is.
Absolutely. And with that, let's get into some Filmgazm facts.
Yes, sir.
Number 1, Marilyn Burns, whose character was chased by Leatherface through the undergrowth, actually cut herself on the branches quite badly. So a lot of the blood on her body and clothes is real.
Jesus.
Yeah. Good Lord, man.
I'm like not surprised by anything at this point.
I know, it's insane. Number 2, director Tobe Hooper claims to have gotten the idea for the film while standing in the hardware section of a crowded store while Christmas shopping. While thinking of a way to get out through the crowd, he spotted the chainsaws.
Jesus.
I like to think that combined with like going out to get some barbecue immediately after, like those two ideas just meshed into this monstrosity.
Unbelievable.
Number 3, the worst part of all with the climactic dinner scene was the 110-degree Texas heat. Plus, the filming lights meant all the food on the table quickly rotted. And the room's poor ventilation made the reek even worse, raising it to genuinely health-threatening levels. Filming for 27 straight hours led to several of the actors suffering genuine sanity slippage and taking Tobe Hooper's direction as meaning they really were their characters. Not exactly the result you want when most of them were playing cannibalistic murderers. What the fuck?
God damn.
The DVD commentary has Gunnar Hansen eerily recounting how he genuinely wanted to kill Marilyn Burns for a few seconds after being ordered to by his, quote, brother. I can't fucking believe that, man.
Ah, dude. What in the world?
Edwin Neal, who played the hitchhiker, said that making the film was more miserable than his service in Vietnam and said that he might kill director Tobe Hooper if he ever saw him again.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, God damn.
Man, like this movie shouldn't exist. This is almost a snuff film.
Yeah.
Good God. Number 4.
Jesus.
During the dinner scene toward the end of the film, when Leatherface cut Sally's finger, actress Marilyn Burns slightly moved her finger so he would actually cut her. This happened because they couldn't get the fake blood to come out of the tube behind the blade. So Marilyn Burns was just like, fuck it, cut me.
Yeah, whatever we can do to get out of here.
That's nuts. God damn. And number 5, according to Edwin Neal, Texas state troopers actually shook his hand and thanked him for causing crime to drop 18%. Apparently, the message audiences took away from the movie was don't pick up hitchhikers. And that
unbelievable.
Dropped the crime rate by 18%. That is amazing.
Incredible.
Now let's talk about these sequels and remakes. Shit got real crazy real fast with these. First up, 1986's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The only one really connected to the first film, directed by Hooper himself. It stars Dennis Hopper as a vengeful Texas marshal who is hunting Leatherface and his family for personal vengeance. I've seen this one, and it is the goofiest shit I've ever seen. I consider it an insult to the first film. But a lot of horror fans have embraced it. I am not one of them. I think
neither am I.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. I do not embrace stuff that's like silly on purpose, or I just don't like it. I think it taints a little bit of the 1974 experience, and I certainly don't like that. So yeah, I'm with you.
But when that film is so hellbent on being realistic and vicious, to have a sequel that's like watching, Leatherface pump his chainsaw like a phallus, like just the goofy, fucked up, ridiculous shit. It's almost like a parody of the first movie.
Yeah, again, it's like you said, it's disrespectful. Yeah.
Straight up. And Toby Hooper himself did it. I don't
I know.
understand. Like, what happened there, man?
Doesn't make any sense.
Then there was 1990's Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. In it, a California couple happens upon Leatherface and his family and must fight for their lives. And I can't really find a lot of info on this one. This one's pretty shitty, apparently. Like, so much so that nobody really wants to talk about it.
Yeah. This is one of the shits of the Texas Chainsaw, gauntlet of movies.
Oh, yeah. This is a gauntlet. And then there was 1995's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. A group of teenagers get into a car crash in the Texas woods and stumble onto Leatherface and his family. And this was one of the earliest films of future Oscar winners Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Mm-hmm.
And they both tried to sue to get their names taken off of this movie. So what the production then did was released a new DVD with their faces front and center. So everyone knew they were in this piece of shit.
I love it.
If you're gonna, start off on horror, shitty horror movies, fucking embrace it. It got you in the door.
Yeah.
Don't try to sue to have your name taken off it. That makes you look bad.
It does, and it makes you look like, well, I guess you had bad taste when you were choosing your roles back then, huh?
Yeah, you can't be choosy, when it comes to, early on. Jennifer Aniston's in the fucking Leprechaun franchise. George Clooney is in Return of the Killer Tomatoes. So, yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere. You can't all be Daniel Day-Lewis.
Truly.
Next, we have the 2003 remake of the film, also titled The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It features Jessica Biel and R. Lee Ermey, among others, and roughly follows the same plot as the first movie, but with a lot more blood.
Yes, more time, more blood, yeah.
And admittedly, it's not bad.
It's
I
okay.
saw it a few years ago. I gave it a 7. It's watchable.
Yeah, we own it here, Brianna and I, and yeah, it's fine. It's not like amazing or anything, but yeah, 7's fair.
Horror remakes, I'm usually against them, but sometimes, they're not terrible.
Yeah.
This is
the Psycho one is terrible.
Yeah,
we brought up
frame for frame. This was actually
exactly
a little bit different.
Yeah, we brought up. Yeah, I bring that up because we brought up Hitchcock and Psycho earlier, and it's just like, yeah, that's an example of how it can go really wrong.
God, I fucking hate the Psycho remake. It's such an unnecessary, pointless movie.
So bad. Yeah, so bad. And Vince Vaughn. What? Yeah. We'll talk about that some other day.
Next was the prequel to the remake, 2006's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. This one tells the story of how Leatherface came to the Hewitt family after they found him in the garbage. I saw this one too, and it's pretty weak. And so his real name is Thomas Hewitt in this universe. And they literally just found him in the garbage outside the slaughterhouse. And they're like, that's a baby. I'm going to take it home. And I guess I won't eat this one. I'll raise it to kill for me.
Makes sense.
It's such a terrible movie. It doesn't add anything to the story. It's awful. Then there was 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D, which you can tell is going to be a masterpiece just by the title. This one features Alexander Daddario and Scott Eastwood, among others, and involves a woman traveling to Texas to collect an inheritance, and you guessed it, runs into Leatherface and his family. And I haven't seen this one because I saw the trailer and I saw the reviews, and I'm like, fuck, this is bad is too good a word.
Yeah, I have seen this one because my oldest brother Adam was an extra in it. So
that's so cool.
He and his good buddy Marty Cruz drove to New Orleans just to be extras in the movie. And so yeah, I've watched it. It is very bad. Very, very bad. I would say that my brother's moment is one of the best moments of it. And he's an extra and he doesn't even say anything.
I don't know if that's praise or an insult.
No, I'm joking. It's a piece of shit. It's not worth your time. And I those are the ones, like you said, sometimes you can embrace a remake if it has, paying homage or doing certain things. That one's just not doing anything, and I don't like it at all.
Yep, that's pretty much what everybody said. And Caleb, who loves everything horror, told me that one was god awful and a piece of shit. So that should tell you all you need to know.
It feels like just as shitty as the Scream MTV show, like that kind of quality, that kind of like, what are we doing? Like, why is this happening? You know,
Damn.
who the fuck paid for this? You know.
The most recent one was 2017's Leatherface, another prequel that shows Leatherface's origins as a teenager who escapes a mental hospital and is being hunted by the law. And it features Stephen Dorff and Finn Jones, among others. And this one sounded like it had promise. I don't know why they keep trying to explain Leatherface's origins. We need to know how this inbred nut job started, chainsawing innocent victims. I don't think so.
No, let me tell you something about Michael Myers. You know, to me, the best horror villain is because we don't know anything about him, and we don't know what he sounds like, and we don't really know what he looks like. That's all huge.
Yep.
So if you take that out of the equation, then I don't like Halloween, as much as I do. Yep. And so if you do that same thing with Texas Chainsaw with Leatherface, it's frustrating. It's not the horror way. It's not a horror purist way, and it's ultimately frustrating.
We saw exactly that in Rob Zombie's Halloween. We saw Michael Myers as this long-haired, abused kid who just one day decides to stop talking and murder his family.
And I don't like that. I don't desire that. I don't need to know that shit. Like you said, it's horror is supposed to be, fucking wild and unpredictable, and sometimes just doesn't give you the answers because it's not a spoon-fed genre.
Yeah. John Carpenter once said in an interview that Stephen King told him, "You never show the face of the devil."
Yeah,
and
that's perfect.
That's great advice. That's why Michael and it's just obvious. And there's currently plans to produce a new Texas Chainsaw that is a direct sequel to the first film, ignoring all the bullshit, just like Halloween. And this seems to be the way to go for a lot of horror reboots these days. But I say go for it. I mean, if you want, if you can bypass all of that horrible shit and make a good one for once, try it out. I know, it worked well for Halloween. And I don't know. I want to see them try that with Jason and Freddy and Leatherface. Yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, I'd be down for that, and if it's in the right hands, if I see a director that gives a shit and is someone who cares about the genre, then yeah, of course I'd be excited and I'd go see it. But and what's 9 films versus 8 Texas Chainsaw? Might as well throw another one in there.
I think they have to keep making them or they lose the rights.
Yes, that's a big thing with the horror genre, right? Is you keep churning these movies out because you don't want to lose your contracts, your rights to these characters and to these stories. So I get it, but it's also kind of annoying.
Why we got 10 plus Hellraiser movies?
Exactly, and why one of them has only really stood the test of time.
I give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre an 8. It's a vicious movie. It still holds up. It's super unsettling, and it's a horror classic, and that'll never change. Despite all the horrible sequels and remakes, nothing can take away from this 1974 classic.
Yeah, I agree. I give it a 9. I echo everything you said. One of my favorite aspects of this movie is stuff you had pointed out earlier about, Hansen being in that mask for about 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for about a month. All that stuff, not being able to wash his clothes. And my very favorite aspect of the film is that it's filmed on the Eclair NPR 16 millimeter camera, which is so goddamn gorgeous, and it requires an extreme amount of light to even properly get what you want on the camera on the screen. And so knowing all that and that he did that and made this genius masterpiece with that camera, it just kind of gets my rocks off. I fucking love it.
That's fantastic to point out. I love that. So I understand you've got something new that you want to show me and the audience.
Yes, yeah. So 1974 is kind of where we're at with Texas Chainsaw, and so if you've been listening to our past few episodes, we've been doing different kinds of drafts, and we did 1987, we did 1997, we did the David Lynch draft, we did 2019. So I was like, hey Connor, send me all the films that you've seen from 1974. We'll do another draft. You've seen 10.
Yeah.
From this year, and I've seen all the ones you've seen. So I was like, that's not really, that would mean we'd each get 5 and 5. And I just, started thinking, and I was like, what's a way I can bring an idea that will be kind of from my brain that you can kind of finish off with yours. We can melt our brains together here. So what I have is I took out 2 movies, which would have been Dark Star and Man with the Golden Gun.
Yes.
Those are the two that we cut out. And so I chose 8 of them and I ranked them, not based off of like how I like them, just sort of off stature and off of, popularity and also how good the product is. So I ranked them 1 through 8, and I have a bracket set up, and we're going to try to find a champion here. So I think it'll make a lot more sense as I go along. The first matchup would be the number 1 seed, Godfather Part 2, versus Black Christmas, the 8 seed. Connor, you decide which movie is better, and we'll move on to the next round.
Fuck. Godfather 2 versus Black Christmas. That is an interesting pair up.
Yeah.
Both groundbreaking in different ways.
Yes.
Godfather 2, very long, but kind of worth it.
Yeah.
Black Christmas, a film I only really truly appreciated last Christmas, where we did it on the show. And I got to watch it with a new light and really fell into it and thought, this is something special. I'm going to go Black Christmas.
Wow. Okay. I love it. That's great. We have a 8 seed over the 1 seed and a
as much as I love Godfather 2, I think it's way too long. I think it could have been 2 movies. And I love the first one more. I'm sorry.
I know this. No, and you know me, that's not my favorite movie from 1974. You know what my favorite is. And I chose it because of its popularity and all the stature behind it. So these are not necessarily ranked in my order, but so I love that. That's awesome. We have Godfather Part 2 is out of the tournament. Next matchup would be the 4-5 matchup. And that would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the 4 seed versus The Conversation at the 5 seed.
Ooh, okay, The Conversation is a film I watched specifically for this because we needed another film, and that was a classic from that year I hadn't seen.
It's so good. So good.
It is very interesting. It's a film that's very much about paranoia and, seeing patterns in things and whether or not, are you going crazy or is this really happening? And I love that kind of film. But Texas Chainsaw, as we just discussed, is iconic, is legendary, is a favorite, and I'm going to go Texas Chainsaw.
Yes. All right. So that's the 4 seed moving on to the second round.
Clearly,
Texas
I have a
Chainsaw.
horror bias, but I don't care.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Now this next matchup, which is the 3 seed versus the 6 seed, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this one. I think I know where you're going to go, but I want to hear your thoughts. That's going to be Young Frankenstein versus Blazing Saddles.
Oh, you asshole. Oh. God damn it. Oh, that's not fair.
I had to.
Brooks versus Brooks.
Yes, had to.
Okay. Young Frankenstein. We did that on the show last year. It's one of my favorite episodes we've done.
Yes.
It is such a great movie. Blazing Saddles, I watched fairly recently. Hasn't held up particularly well.
No.
It's also really funny. It's got, some great lines, some great characters. But Young Frankenstein is so complete.
Yes.
I'm going to go Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, got to be. So that's the 3 seed Young Frankenstein will be moving on. And Blazing Saddles is out. Yeah, I think that's the right call there. Okay, so this is the last matchup of the first round. That'd be the 2 seed Chinatown versus the 7 seed Murder on the Orient Express.
Whew. Okay.
Tough group here, yeah.
2 murder mysteries.
I tried to do this, yeah.
Yeah. 2 films about, a relatively famous detective known for his unorthodox ways solving a murder.
Yes.
We've got Jake Gittes versus Hercule Poirot.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson versus Albert Finney.
Yes. Yes.
Oh boy. All right, Chinatown is a film that really took Roman Polanski and propelled him to levels of Hollywood royalty he didn't know he could aspire to and has since lost. Then we have, I believe Murder on the Orient Express was by Sidney Lumet.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. And that has such a fantastic cast, and it's such a great story.
Oh my God, yeah. Legendary story by Agatha Christie, yeah.
Agatha Christie really killed it with that one.
She's a legend. I read that book when I was like a sophomore in high school, and it just kind of changed my way of like, I was like, oh shit, these classic books are really good.
For sure. Mm. Chinatown.
Yeah, yeah. The 2 seed Chinatown moves on. Tough matchup here. So we're going to go back up to the top.
Okay.
That would be the second round. So we have the 8 seed Black Christmas versus the 4 seed Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, boy. The two probably best horror films of 1974.
That we've seen? Yeah, for sure.
Black Christmas versus Texas Chainsaw. Bob Clark versus Toby Hooper. Billy versus Leatherface.
Yeah.
So Black Christmas is a very unique film because there's not a lot of good horror films that take place at Christmas. And
exactly.
This film really creeped me out. It's unsettling. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but it really works. Texas Chainsaw is so complete. You know everything you need to know, and it's fucking creepy.
Yeah, this is hard.
Forgive me. I'm going Black Christmas.
None taken here, man.
I love Texas Chainsaw, but Black Christmas is really a unique film that fucked me up last Christmas because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
Right? Yeah, and I'm very excited to watch it again this Christmas.
Yes.
Because it's going to become a part of our rotation here at Filmgazm. So that's the 8 seed is going to be in the final Black Christmas. Now on the other side, let's see who's going to be facing that film. That would be 3 seed Young Frankenstein versus the 2 seed Chinatown.
There's not really a contest there. I'm going to go Young Frankenstein immediately.
I knew it.
That's a firm favorite of mine. I love Chinatown, but I can watch Young Frankenstein any day of the week and laugh my ass off.
Yeah, and if I were voting on these, Chinatown would beat everybody by, miles. And that's just, I love that's our difference. There's a difference there.
Yeah.
All right, here's our final. We've come down to 2 films that I did not think would be here. 8 seed Black Christmas and 3 seed Young Frankenstein. Who is the champ of 1974?
All right, horror versus horror parody. We got Mel Brooks versus Bob Clark. Gene Wilder versus, I forget her name.
Yeah. That's part of the charm, right? Yeah.
Oh, man. Young Frankenstein. It's,
Yeah.
My favorite film in 1974. Absolutely. Young Frankenstein.
And so would you say Black Christmas is second, or do you think that's just how I seeded them?
I think that's just how it worked out because I do love a lot of those films. Black Christmas, though, really surprised me, and I really like it a lot now. And I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to see. I'll have to revisit a lot of these and see how it holds up.
Yeah, for sure, right? And and continue watching movies from 1974 and gaining new. You just watched one a couple days ago in the conversation, and so we could fit this bracket in. This was really cool because I started it with my, just these 8 movies, and I placed them how I thought they'd be fun matchups, and you finished it off with your voting, and I had a lot of fun there. Young Frankenstein wins the tournament.
Right on. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, and hey, man, hats off to you. You were clicking it off there, just kind of talking about each one. And that's Olivia Hussey is the main girl in Black Christmas.
Olivia Hussey, that's who it was. Yes.
Yeah. Other than that, you're on your shit there, buddy.
Yeah, I love these movies. I know what.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Is any year you give us from 1970 and on, we're going to be able to do something like this, whether it be a bracket or a draft or some kind of clever idea. So be expecting this every week.
And something of course, we'll only ever talk about films we've seen because, why would we ever, talk anything about a film we haven't seen? That's just not worth our time. We're going to watch the movie and then we'll talk about it.
Is there, I have seen all the movies you've seen from 1974. I'm trying to think if there's one that I've seen that maybe you should check out. I don't think I can think of one off the top of my head. Let me look on Filmgazm and see if we have any on the site.
I've always wanted to see Death Wish.
Me too.
Yeah, and Man with the Golden Gun is one of my favorite Bond films.
Yeah. I very much have heard you say that.
Francisco Scaramanga.
Oh, you know what?
What?
Yeah, there is one. J'ai tout el île is Chantal Ackerman from Belgium. She's a incredible director. I forgot about that movie. I reviewed that for the site 2-3 months ago. That's a really good movie. Really, really fucked up, and I think you dig it, but it's got a weird pace to it.
Okay. I see here Foxy Brown.
Oh, Jesus. Foxy Brown is right in front of me. I love Foxy Brown. You know, you talk about Coffee in 1973 and then Pam Grier doing the back-to-back and just killing it in the 70s with the blaxploitation. Yeah, Foxy Brown is a classic. Love that movie.
I have not seen, I don't think I've seen any blaxploitation film beyond Dolomite.
Oh, boy, yeah. You know, I would love to fit a conversation in someday on Filmgazm just about those kinds of films. Foxy Brown is certainly one we could cover right here.
Awesome. That was fun. That was a great little thing. We're going to have to, maybe next time I'll do the brackets and you can vote on them.
Yeah, we'll switch it around and do that kind of stuff and yeah, just have fun with it. The draft is more for years that we have a bunch of films. Like 2019, I think it was 53.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, I'll toot our own horns on that one. I don't really care. It's, that's what we're trying to do is, share all these movies that we've both seen and we can both have an opinion on. And that's the point of these drafts and tournaments. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to keep doing this. What's next week?
Next week, we are stepping out of the book of Filmgazm ever so briefly to dig into a recently released horror flick that's been picking up steam as a Shudder exclusive. When six friends hold a seance over a Zoom call, they bring forth a demonic presence into their video chat and into their homes. Everything goes off the rails in the super short but super creepy 2020 ghost flick, Host. I don't think either of us has watched it yet.
No, I've waited. I've been wanting to watch it. I've waited. I know it's only like an hour long, and I cannot wait because my favorite podcaster, my favorite movie, writer and critic, Sean Fennessy, says it's undoubtedly one of the 5 best movies of the year. And so hearing that from someone who watches everything and he's talking about a low budget hour-long horror film, I got to see it.
That is cool. I'm excited about this one. And
yeah, next week's going to be a blast because we're doing a 2020. We just haven't been able to do that much this year.
Yeah, we felt it was important to showcase a recent release since Candyman, Spiral, A Quiet Place Part 2, Antlers, Saint Maud, The Conjuring 3, and Halloween Kills all got pushed. So we didn't have, not a good year to be a horror fan. Not a lot of options.
No, and last year was, not a letdown, but there just wasn't as many, big films that were under the horror umbrella genre. So last year we just didn't get as much meat. Yeah. We're hoping to get that back sometime soon, right?
Absolutely, and hopefully Host brings us something exciting to talk about.
I'm excited.
And in the meantime, make sure you have a full gas tank when driving through the Texas backroads and never pick up a hitchhiker. We'll see you next Wednesday.